Happy family reunion, everybody. How are you doing? I want to talk a little bit about legacy and some of our family history beginning in the 1600s to 1800s period when there were enslaved Africans brought to North America to labor on plantations, mainly in the South. Now, this land foundation was a brutal system of bondage that would last until the Civil War, which is in part where our family history begins, in East Texas. Pickens and Lucy were born in the 1840s, and this has some relevance because it's important to relate to when the state of Texas was annexed into the United States, which was 1845. If Pickens was born in 1846, he was just a year younger, roughly the same age as the state of Texas. Isn't that interesting when you really think about that? Okay, so imagine when Pickens was just a kid, and I'm talking 16 years old, and the Civil War was going on. The state of Texas was not that old, so we are in alignment with the age of Texas. Many of you may know that a lot of the information that we've obtained about our forefathers is information that has been passed down through the generations from different family members. I've visited census bureaus and looked at birth certificates, and that's how I've gotten a lot of information. We know that Pickens is from North Carolina. He was most likely an enslaved child who traveled with a man named Holt, who brought him to Texas. Now, African Americans were not freed until 1863, but in Texas they held on until 1865. There are also records that say Lucy Jackson was born in Alabama. Her father, Mr. Henry Jackson, who also was the first pastor of Chapel Hill CME Church for 15 years. Texas in this time was a part of the Confederacy. But when the Emancipation Proclamation was declared in 1863, yay, everyone was declared free. But we know that June 19, 1865 is how we got Juneteenth, because Texas, slow to let go, held on. Now, in the Reconstruction era, which was between 1865 and 1877, those African Americans who were freed had to go through this whole process of violence and systemic oppression. This was in the post-war South. But do you ever think about how old Pickens was during that time? Just 19, almost 20 years old. Imagine that. Lucy, she was just a couple years younger, so she would have been 16, 17 years old. They were so young. But we know that Mr. Jackson, Henry Jackson, pastor of CME Church, he and I believe it was 4 other men, it was 5 of them altogether, that bought Chapel Hill from the Holts and moved it to where it is today. Not in the exact location because it was slightly up on a hill. I remember that as a child, turned in a completely different direction, but then they built the new church and moved it to where it currently is today. I know there are people in the room that can talk more specifically about that time, and we need to write it down. You know, we often talk about how much of a boss Pickens was, but we downplay the contributions of his wife, Lucy. They're remarkable. And while Pickens was out there acquiring and cleaning all this land, Lucy was helping. So we come from these amazing people who did the work, who built the land. And during that time, for many black people, they were sharecroppers. There were a lot of racial barriers that prevented them from amassing a lot of land and wealth. But our people did that. Were bosses with their 14 children, who also themselves built their own families, and they contributed to the communities around them. Lane's Chapel, Chapel Hill, Sunshine. They were instrumental in founding local institutions, churches, schools, contributing to Texas College and local businesses, all catering to the growing black community of that time. Now, between 1880s and the 1890s, it is said that the Mosleys expanded their land between 800 and 1,000 acres. They also owned grist mills, cotton gins, and livestock, and they presided as community leaders. These are people that you can be extremely proud of. I know that I certainly am. But in 1902 and 1903, tragedy struck. Lucy Mosley passed away in 1902, and I don't know exactly what from, but that was the timeline. What is so sad is that she was only 54 years old, and in 1903, Pickens, at age 57, just a year later, he dies tragically from an accident. While sitting on the back of a wagon down by the creek, it is said that a horse was startled, or his team of horses were startled, jerking the wagon and breaking his neck. He didn't die immediately. He did lay in bed, and I think it was several days to a week where he did succumb to his injuries, and he died. Think about it. That was 122, 121 years ago when they died. And we still remember and celebrate both of them to this day. Despite these losses, the youngest surviving Mosley children, including John, who was 21 years old, Horace, my great-grandfather, was 19, Katie was 14, and Lucy was just 7 years old. Their parents were gone, and it was up to them to continue on their legacy and build their own lives and their own families. As the young siblings lost their parents, they had a lot to deal with. You know, they had lost their brother Lonnie in 1882 when he was almost 2 years old. Although Pickens and Lucy did not live through the Jim Crow era, their children did. The Jim Crow laws took hold and enforced segregation and disenfranchised many African Americans. But through this time, the Mosley family held onto their land and protected their wealth and independence and their faith there in rural East Texas. The later generations of the Mosley family built on this legacy of Pickens and Lucy. They fought for equal rights and the preservation of the family wealth and the family land. I know that it was such an integral part of the story I learned as a child. By the end of the 20th century, the Mosley family reunions would become a cherished tradition, celebrating the strength, the perseverance, and the resilience of our family and its legacy. So this is how I want to conclude, family. Our family's journey from slavery to land ownership, from adversity to community leadership, is a testament to the resilience and unity found in the Mosley family. From Pickens and Lucy's early struggles to the thriving family they built, the Mosley legacy stands as a beacon of hope for future generations. Through our faith, through hard work, and an unshakable belief in our worth, the Mosleys have carved out a path of success that continues to inspire to this day. I know many of you sitting there have your own stories. Some go in much greater detail than this overview that I have left you with today. I encourage you to sit amongst each other and talk about these stories. Share the stories that were told to you. Write them down. Don't just say them. Put them down on paper so that we can really build on our legacy and we can pass this information on to future generations. Love, unity, and transformation. That is what we're after. And transformation requires work. It doesn't just occur. We have to actively participate in our transformation. I wish you all the very best. I wish you all an abundance of love and have an amazing time. Much love, and I hope to see you all soon. God be with you.